Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much for having
Welcome. Oh
me.
my gosh, thanks for being here. I can't wait to get into it. So, why don't we start with you're an IVF mom, you're an adoptive mom, you're
Mhm.
an wildly successful entrepreneur, and you do all three of them at once. Well, I guess mom falls into one
Yes.
category and entrepreneur
Yeah.
into another. So
Yes.
let's talk about your journey to parenthood. Let's start there, which I know
Okay.
was quite complicated for you.
Yeah.
Tell me how it went.
Yeah. So I knew from the time I was a teenager that it would probably be difficult for me to have kids. I don't know if they gave me this label back then or if they just said, yeah, you have super irregular periods. So, but I have PCOS. I also found out later in life that I have endometriosis. But like from the time I was, 15, that like my periods were so irregular that doctors were like, yeah, it's not impossible, but you probably will have to get some help to get pregnant at some point.
Did they officially
And
diagnose you at that point with
I
PCOS
don't
or?
I don't remember if
Okay.
that term was used or not. This was in the 90s, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I do feel fortunate that I sort of had a heads up that fertility would be a journey for me because I
Yes.
think a lot of women go into it thinking like, a couple months trying and then we'll be on our way. And so I had actually talked to my husband before we got married and said, infertility could be an issue. How do you feel about adoption? And he was on board. So we kind of like started our marriage with that understanding.
Which PS
So,
can I just say, and I said this a million times, that should be on everyone's pre-marriage discussion checklist because
yes.
I think so many times you realize you're not on the same page as your partner in terms of treatment options, what you want. Like you're usually on the same page about whether you want kids or not, but you don't talk about like, well, what will we go through to get there? How much are you willing to
Yes.
do? And I find that because I know you've talked a lot about relationships and infertility, and I feel like that's where the disconnect starts to happen. Often, stereotypically, it's the woman driving the whole process forward and the man being like, what do you mean you want to spend X amount of money on this? Or what do you, right? Or
Mm,
what do you mean you want more than one? I know one was so easy. Why would we go for two and go through all this treatment? I wish there were like a questionnaire as part of the as
mm.
part of the dating, or courting process before engage, before you like the ring is out and you're like, well, let me just ask you a couple questions. And then you would get into some of this stuff because I think that's where it gets really tricky.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like especially when you're young, you're not even really thinking about a lot of that stuff for most
No.
of and
And nobody
it's
thinks, to your point, that they're going to have issues. So, of course, you had that conversation because you did have the heads up. I remember
yes.
for us, when all our friends were going through it, I was like, oh, thank God this isn't going to be our story until it was,
Mm. Yes,
crazy.
absolutely. I know. So when we decided that we were ready to have a family, and as expected, it wasn't happening easily, we decided to start the adoption process and infertility treatments at the same time, which looking back was naive. Like I just didn't know how hard each of those journeys is
Oh my gosh.
individually. And
Yeah.
so to put them together was way too much, but I just didn't know. You just don't know what you don't know. And
And I
I
also
just,
heard you say somewhere, and I thought it was so beautiful why you did it for the sake of the child. Will you tell us about that?
yeah, I just felt like I honestly don't have a preference where like, and so I don't want my baby to feel like mom and dad tried for years and did all of these infertility treatments and they couldn't have their quote own child. And so they sort of settled on adoption and they got me because that's not how we felt. And I know that's not how any adoptive parent feels about their baby once their baby's there. But I just felt like from the beginning, I'm like, whatever works out happens. Whatever's meant to be will happen. We'll pursue both at the same time. We'll see which works out more quickly. And that'll be what's meant to be for us. And bless my little naive heart. I didn't know the pain that was in store for me, but we did both at the same time. And so was doing IUIs and, the meds with that and then the ups and downs of the adoption process of approval and paperwork, and then lots of expecting moms who would contact us and sort of interview us, and then decide. It was just so emotional to not know what was going to work out first. And we had several birth moms choose us and then change their minds. So I'm like going through I'm a mess because of my hormones and the meds I'm taking,
Sure.
but
Oh
then I'm
God.
also going through
Like
these.
actual like rejection, heartbreak.
Yes,
When
yes.
you set out for adoption, did you have any specific adoption support in place, like somebody to hold your hand through it and tell you that might happen? Did it even occur to you that that might happen?
No. Looking back, like I didn't even have a therapist back then. Like now
Mm.
I'm like, oh, for sure. If
Yeah.
you're going to start the adoption process or the infertility like treatment process, get a good therapist. I mean, our agency did have like we had a caseworker who was awesome, who I could talk through stuff with and was very supportive when stuff didn't work out with expectant moms that had picked us. So I had that and she was great, but I didn't have the support that I probably should have figured out for myself or sort of gotten into place before we started the
Yeah.
process. I was young. I was like 26 when we started
Wow.
all of this. And I think I just didn't know how hard it was all going to be. So when after a lot of disappointments with adoption, we were contacted by my son's birth mother and she picked us. We felt really sure and good about her, though we had seen that that didn't necessarily mean that it was going to be a sure thing. We decided we need to stop the fertility treatments. It's too much. Let's trust this. We're going to go forward as if this is going to work out. And so we did. And I'm glad we did because it did end up working out. And she's actually my husband's second cousin, but they had never met before.
Mm.
My husband's mom mentioned in a Christmas letter, like a Christmas card, that we were looking to adopt. And Katie had just found out she was pregnant. She was 16. She hadn't told her
Wow.
parents yet that she was
Wow.
pregnant. And she saw this Christmas card on the counter and read it. And she was like, well, that's an idea. And so she just kind of like let it simmer, I think. And
Just
then
got like full chills.
I know. And then a few months later, she told her parents she was pregnant. And they said, like, okay, what's the plan? Like, what? And she said, well, I saw this Christmas card and this couple, and they mentioned adoption. And she pulled it out and they said, we're related to them. So she had no idea that we were connected. And so it's wild because I was actually driving home from work and I got a call because most expectant moms wouldn't have had my phone number,
Sure.
but I got a call and I just had this like intuition when I looked at the number and I didn't know the number. I just like, I think this is something to do with adoption. And I
Mm.
answered it and it was Katie. And she's the 17-year-old, 16-year-old at that time. She's like, hi, do you have a minute to talk? No, like introduction.
You're like, who is this?
And she's like, my name's Katie and I'm pregnant and I'd love if you adopted my baby. And like, oh my gosh. But her dad is cousins with my mother-in-law. And so he had called and talked to her and gotten our phone number. And so then Katie called me and I just remember pulling over
Yeah, I was
to
gonna
the
say, I
side
hope
of
you
the
pulled
road
over.
and chatting with her and finding out all about her. And she was like maybe 16 weeks pregnant at that point. And so we really got to support her through the whole pregnancy. I was there at the 20-week ultrasound. And that's the first time I
Were
met
you
her.
geographically, where were you? Like, how far was she from you?
Yeah, we were in Buffalo, New York at the time. My husband was in dental school there, and she was in Utah.
Okay.
And so we were not close then, but once he finished dental school, he did residency in Denver, so we were quite a bit closer. And then we moved to Idaho when my son was 2, and so we were quite a bit closer then. So we, from the beginning, had an open adoption, and that has been a beautiful gift in my son's life, open adoption with both his birth mom and his birth dad and their families.
Wow.
And so I was there at the 20-week ultrasound. I was there in the room when Noah was born, which was so generous of Katie to invite me to be there. And it's been a beautiful experience. The ups and downs of adoption were absolutely brutal getting there. But once we got there, he was worth every second
Of
of
course.
the pain it took to get him to us.
Mm, mm. Do they, the Arcadia and her, the birth father, still in any sort of formal relationship?
Yes, with each other or with
Yes,
us?
with each other.
Oh,
So I
with each other.
like, do you all hang out, or is it you
Yeah.
go to birth mom sometime and birth dad sometime?
Yeah, so that has evolved over the years. They were, they were in high school. So
Yeah.
they were dating, not dating, off and on, but always a really wonderful relationship with Noah, with my son, both of them. Sometimes they would visit together, sometimes they wouldn't. They actually got married, and but then they got divorced. And so we've sort of navigated that as it's come. Um, Katie actually passed away. His birth mom passed away
I'm
several years
sorry.
ago. Yeah, thank you. And so that now she isn't no longer coming for visits, but her family often does. And it's just been a beautiful part of our life. And also, I love that Drew, Noah's birth dad, is still connected to them
So much. So
because
special.
he's their ex son in law, but he loves them. And like, I recently was planning a 12th or 13th birthday party for my son, which is happening this summer, which is wild. And I texted Drew and I said, I would really like to invite Katie's parents to be there, but will that be awkward for you? And he said, I love them like family and I want them there. In fact, it would make it better for me. It would be less awkward for me if they're there. And so I just love that's such a testament to him. He has been so, just loving and giving and connected and wanting everybody who's important to Noah's life to be a part of his life. And there's no like possessiveness there.
It's
And
really
so
beautiful.
our open adoption story has been incredible. And a lot of that is due to the maturity of these people that just want the best for Noah. Like it's always just been about what's best for him. And the rest of us can navigate whatever discomfort or awkwardness. Like we're adults, we'll figure it out,
Mm.
but what's best for this kid? And I think that's been a huge blessing in Noah's life.
I love that so much. Yay, Drew. Drew, three
Oh,
cheers for Drew. We love him.
oh, he's amazing. He really is.
Amazing. Okay, so you have little Noah, you've moved to Colorado, and how does baby number two come along?
So baby number two came a couple of years later in Idaho. We had to move a lot during those school years.
Sure, of course.
But that she came through IVF. So I had done everything up leading up to IVF, but I had never done IVF when we got Noah. And so when we were ready to have another baby, I said, I am not going to do all of that again. I did 11 IUIs that didn't work. So it's probably not going to work. So
Yeah.
let's just skip all that and let's go to IVF. And so that's what we did. And I was so fortunate to get pregnant with Sally the first round of IVF that we did, which I know is rare.
Yep.
And I was pretty young again, like I was 30 when I got pregnant with her. And so it was just like a blessing that my body worked for me and we got our baby here. And so what's kind of wild to me is that I feel like in some ways my IVF journey was way less dramatic as far
Yeah.
as ups and downs
Yeah. Isn't that
than my
interesting?
adoption journey. Yeah, like I mean, my pregnancy was really difficult,
Sorry.
and but like the actual IVF part of it was fairly straightforward and a good experience. I had great doctors and great support. I think I'd done a lot more work to support myself emotionally. Like I had a therapist by that point.
Well, you're like, I'm
I
not going
had
through that again, you
yeah,
know.
just a little older and wiser and
Yeah,
was more prepared that this is going to be hard. And so what are we going to do to support me through this? And so that second experience of getting Sally in a lot of ways was much easier than the first experience of getting Noah.
amazing. And does Sally, everything's open, so she understands the difference in relationship. Are you open? I think you're pretty open with her about IVF too. Does she know how she
Hmm.
was? I think it's
Yeah,
sometimes I think it's so easy when you've done IVF. I'm like, when your kid's like, how are babies made? You're like, well, you go to the doctor's office and they take it,
exactly.
right? It's like so
Yeah.
easy. I'm like, that's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
Um,
I just have to,
Okay.
and I have to tell you, Abby, we had the
Yeah.
funniest conversation the other day because I've tried to be really open with my kids about bodies, about
Yep.
sex, like answering their questions. I research lots of I interview lots of parenting
Right.
experts on my podcast, and universally they say like just answer the questions, be
Yep.
honest, that like tell them the right names of body parts, all of it. So I've tried to be so good about that. And like we've had conversations about how babies are made. I thought that my kids understood this. The other night, she's like asking me a few questions about sex. And she's like, but you and dad have never had to do that because, and I was like, wait, what? And she's like, because Noah's adopted and I'm IVF. So you guys have never had sex. And I was like, oh, we missed something
Yeah.
here. Like we need to talk. I was like giggling. So I told her, no, when you're in a committed relationship and you love each other, then you also have sex for that reason. And she was like, I never want to hear that. Like she's like, never again, and this is just the funny things where as we're going into preteen years with my kids, like these
Yeah.
are the conversations
So
that I never
funny.
expected to be having, but
I
here we are.
know.
So
Well, my daughter stole a bracelet on a recent vacation. Didn't
mhm.
find out till she got home. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning and she showed this to me. And I was not at all at 7 o'clock in the morning prepared to be like, oh my God, how do I have this conversation now? For the
Totally.
record, we have sent it back to Hawaii where she stole it from. I just want to be clear.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, was not prepared for her to be like, Daddy knows about this. Like, and that's how she started the conversation. And I was like, oh God, how do you have the stealing conversation with kids? I don't know.
Every conversation with
Every
kids, you're like, here we
conversation.
go. Here we go.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Okay. So I know at some point in your journey, you were talking about, I never ask my guests usually if they're going to have more kids because I don't know what anyone's going through, but I think you've talked openly that at one point you were thinking about going for a third.
yes.
And then you chose not to. And
Mhm.
I would love to look at that because some of what we talk about and deal with, especially when I'm doing my fertility coaching, is the pivot of what you thought your family would look like and what is actually looking like and how to move to that decision.
Yeah. And it's so tough. It's so emotional and making those decisions. And I would say I'm not like fully out of that yet.
Mm,
I turned 40 at the end of May. So we're almost there.
congrats.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I just recognized that not that I couldn't do it when I was older, but this window is closing. If I want to do this, it's time. My son's 12, my daughter's 9, that at this point there's going to be a very significant age gap. Like, are we really going to do this? And I'm like 95% sure at this point that our family's complete.
Yeah.
But I will admit that there's still this because I always envisioned that my family would be bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of women listening that can relate to that.
Yeah.
And there's just the sadnesses and the griefs that you have to let go of. Where, like, I grew up with two sisters, and my sisters are my best friends. I cannot imagine doing life without them. And just accepting the fact that Sally probably will never have a sister,
Yeah.
things like that. It's just, I envisioned my husband comes from a family with five. He's one of five. So a big family. I have three in mine. I just always envisioned a bigger family. And I even project into the future of like thinking about grandkids
Of
and like,
course.
what if my kids like with two kids, what if they don't have kids, or what if they only have one or two kids? And then, and so you just thinking about all of that, but I've had some pretty significant health problems since Sally was born. I would have for sure done IVF again. We have some frozen embryos. Um, but they kept getting pushed back because of these health issues that I
Mm.
have. And for a while, I wasn't even allowed to, like with the medications I was on, I wasn't even allowed to consider it. And then as time passed and I started to get better, it just felt like, should I sacrifice this fragile, delicate health way that I found like I'm in a pretty good place with my health right now? And I've just felt like if I were to get pregnant with how hard my pregnancy was with Sally, I'm assuming that like it would be very difficult on my body with these new
Yeah.
health issues that I've developed. And so I was actually considering doing IVF, not even considering it. I was going to do IVF a year ago. And right before I was supposed to start all the meds, I just like felt complete panic.
Mm,
Like it just felt so, I was so terrified of putting my body through it.
mhm.
And I just had to take a good look at, and I'm religious and pray and say, like, maybe this means it's not, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. And maybe my family is complete. And I have these two beautiful miracle babies. And that's okay. Like that's a beautiful family just as it is, and it doesn't have to look a certain way in order for it to like count or
Right.
in order for it to be everything that I hoped for my life.
Yeah.
It can this is enough. What we
Yeah.
have is enough. So that's where I am right now with everything and with the decision.
Beautiful. I love you've been storing embryos for 9 years. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy to think about?
I know, yeah, and, like, paying to store them but I just will want I just not and I'm still not ready to close that door, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, "It's okay. We'll just
Pay
keep
that
storing
storage fee.
them."
Yep. That's the
Yep,
beauty of it.
until we figure out what's next for us, and I also love not limiting myself. I've sort of given myself a deadline, like, "Well, if you turn 40 and you haven't done this yet, like, it's over," and that's not true.
Totally.
Like, I
Permission to
still
change your mind at any point.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. And
Okay.
I think I'm feeling more peaceful about it because
Okay.
for a long time, it felt really painful. And
Mhm.
now I sort of feel like I've moved through that to more peace around that decision and just gratitude for the miracles that I do have
Yeah.
and the life that we've built and how much I love being a mom, which is another part of my story. Another part of my story is that I fought so hard for these babies and then motherhood was so hard for me.
Yes. Let's talk about this. Yes.
Yeah, and
And
like
you feel guilty, right? I think we go through, I mean,
oh,
same with me when I was like, I'm like, a sleepless night is a sleepless night, but I should be just so happy that they're even here. I can't complain about it at all to my husband,
yes.
to my friends, nothing, because they're going to be like, well, you asked for it, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Mm.
And people would say to me, so Noah was incredibly colicky. And I think any new mom, whether or not their baby is colicky, it's wild. Like getting that new identity and the sleepless nights and all of it. And I think I didn't give myself permission, like because he was adopted, I didn't think I was allowed to like have postpartum depression, which
Mm,
actually apparently the research shows adoptive moms can get that as
I
well.
believe that. Yeah.
And like I just this it was a lot. And then he was colicky and he was crying all the time. And people would say to me, like, oh, you must be loving every minute of this because they knew how long I'd fought for it and how much we wanted this baby. And I would feel so much shame. So I didn't want to say out loud, actually, I'm not loving every moment of it. I'm really struggling. And so I had had some eating disorder behaviors throughout my teen years, mostly college, actually, that I had sort of controlled.
Mhm.
I'd never gone to treatment for. I'd sort of managed. And then I found myself as a brand new mom feeling so alone, so much shame that I wasn't loving it more. And like those eating disorder behaviors just came
Right
on
back
so
in.
strong.
Interesting.
And so that is when I finally got a therapist, Abby. It's like
Good job, Rachel.
and I think the reason why is because I looked at this sweet innocent baby and I felt like for a lot of those years when I was struggling before becoming a mom, I just felt like, well, the only person I'm really hurting is myself. So like whatever. And then when I looked at this baby, I was like, I can't do this to him. Like I need to work on this stuff that's been simmering for years and figure out how to manage it better and heal mentally and emotionally, and he deserves a mom who loves herself and who's happy. And so I finally went to therapy, started going to therapy, and it's been a really wonderful journey for me and sort of figuring out who I am and the type of mom that I am, that I don't have to be. Because I think I heaped a lot of expectations on myself of you'd idealized motherhood for so long that then when you're a mom, you're like, I thought I would love this more. Or I
Yeah.
thought that I'd be the mom who played on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot for me to just realize I can be me within my motherhood. Like who I am is enough, and I can have sort of my own brand of motherhood, and I don't need to should on myself,
Yes.
and
Yes.
tell myself that I have to be a certain way. And so I'm true genuinely incredibly happy in my motherhood now and love it's like my kids are my favorite thing. Like I just and I'm so grateful to have come to this place when the beginning of motherhood was very difficult for me.
Yeah. So from that, let's talk about how 3 and 30 was born, because I feel
Yeah,
like it came in some ways from your motherhood experience, right?
it 100% did.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you made that bridge. So I had been a high school English teacher before my kids were born. And I loved it,
Yeah.
and I felt really fulfilled every day. It was just such a tangible I knew I was good at it,
Mhm.
and there's just so much fulfillment in that. And then you become a stay-at-home mom,
You're like, I'm
and
not
you're
good at
like,
this.
"I am not good at this," and
Yes.
nobody is, like, thanking me, and nobody's
Yes.
even talking to me,
Yes.
and yet I had willingly given up my career because I thought, like, I fought hard for these babies, and I'm gonna love it. And so I put teaching aside and started staying home, and holy cow, it was so much harder
Yeah.
than I ever thought it would be, and I miss teaching so much. And I could have gone back to teaching high school, public school, but I really did in my heart want to be home with my littles.
Mhm.
But I just also wanted something else for me. I wanted
Yeah.
to use my gifts for teaching, and so that's when I got the idea to start my podcast. And at the time, I wasn't thinking as my business. I just was thinking as a hobby to give myself an outlet for teaching. And so this was 2017. And I started my show, again, just sort of like as a hobby. And that was a good time to start a podcast. Like
Yes.
it grew really fast,
Yep.
and that there wasn't a lot of podcasts out there. So I was very fortunate in the timing of that. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, I think this could be my work too.
Mhm.
Like this could be my business. And so it's evolved over the years. And so now it's my work, and it's also an opportunity for me to get to interview parenting experts who then I can bring that wisdom into my own home and use it with my children.
Yes.
And so it has just been a huge gift and blessing in my life to be able to do work that's so aligned with motherhood, which is something that I've grown to love so much.
And how did it turn into, because it has courses now. I know you have a
Mhm.
journal, which I wanna talk about.
Yeah.
Were those just ideas you had and you were like, "Let's just make this happen?"
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it evolves. It's slow. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 7 years. So
Yeah.
it's not like when it started out, I was like, there'll be a podcast and there'll be these many courses and this journal. It just all slowly unfolded over time as ideas came, but also as moms in the community were telling me what they needed. It sparked ideas for me. And so just take it one day at a time, and you
Mhm.
figure out what you're excited about creating. And I love to teach. So courses were an obvious place for me to start working. And then also I've always loved to journal. I've always loved to write. So again, it's like tapping into things that I'd always loved to do, but then like bringing them into my motherhood more and
Mhm.
figuring out how other mothers might be blessed by them as well. I think is really at the heart of a lot of the work that I do.
I love it. Okay, so I had one other question. It might be very personal. You can tell me to bugger off if you'd like. But since you are religious, were there challenges in terms of your religion and assisted reproductive technology when you wanted to go down that road? Or did you feel like because you knew your body might need this help, you were okay with it?
Yes, um yeah, my particular I mean, I know there are some religions might have more struggles with that, but, like, the church that I was raised in, I was never taught or
Wasn't an
told that
issue.
no, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Like, I just always understood that this was a medical condition and that it's okay to get treatment for a medical condition, and that I
I
mean,
mean,
as a
exactly. I wish everybody looked at it like that. It would be so much
right? Like,
easier.
and as a religious person, I really do believe that God inspires doctors and scientists and
I feel the
like
same.
to heal the conditions of the human body. And so if we believe that it's okay to get cancer treatment, why wouldn't
Yes.
we believe that it's okay to get fertility treatment? to help our family. So I'm really grateful that that was never like a stigma for me or for my family.
Good.
Everybody was very supportive and on board. And yeah, so
Okay, good, good. I
that's how
just
that
wish I,
started out.
I feel the same as you. I don't science and religion are not completely separate, right? Like
No, not to
science,
me.
no, not to me either. And I get everyone has a right to their opinion, but I just wish from a medical perspective, everyone could look at it that simply because that's really all it is.
Yeah. Well, and I
Ah,
feel that way about therapy too, Abby. Because I think for a lot of years when I was struggling with like eating disorder stuff and depression before I went to therapy, I just thought like, well, I should be able to pray hard enough.
mm,
Like I should, this. And then one day I was sitting in a counseling appointment and I was like feeling God's presence. And I was like, oh, like God uses therapists too. Like God can use a lot of different methods in order to like help us and to answer prayers. And so, yes, I absolutely believe that like that has all played into my journey is the medical and the religious has all helped and supported me through my infertility
I
journey.
love it. Okay, so just in closing, give us a takeaway, a piece of advice, a cliche, anything that you think of or that you use on a regular basis that guides you through your journey.
Yeah. So there was a scripture verse that whether or not you're religious, I think is words to live by that I really thought about a lot during my infertility journey and that I've thought about with other trials since. And it's Psalm 35, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And I would often think about that and think like sometimes the night is very long. Like we're not talking about one specific night necessarily. It can be months, years of pain and weeping and sorrow, but joy comes in the morning. Like eventually joy will come back. Eventually, you know, you're going to get a blessing that's going to help you. I would love to say like eventually you're going to get that baby. And I think that is true for a lot of families going through infertility that if you keep going, you will eventually get that baby via adoption
Right,
or
one way or
whatever
another.
way.
Hmm.
I also know that there are the people that that may not be true for, and I still believe that joy comes in the morning. Like eventually you are going to feel joy again in your life. And I say that not as a toxic positivity thing at all. I lost my mom when I was a teenager to breast cancer.
Sorry.
I've had a lot of difficult things, and this has proven true that like there years after my mom passed away, it was weeping and grief and heartache. And now it's been 20 years and I still feel that sadness, but I also feel so much joy and I know she would want me to. And I
Yes.
look back and I think about her and it no longer feels like it's going to crush me to think about her. It feels like joy and gratitude to think about her. And so, whether it's infertility that people are going through or any other trial, this sentiment has helped me a lot. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And if we just keep hanging on, we will feel joy again eventually.
I love that one, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here. We will, of course, link out to all your stuff, and that's one to live by for anybody. I agree.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure.